After a long-awaited 20 weeks, it is here, my 2021 Mach 1 in Velocity Blue. Was it worth it? Well, you know what? I've had a chance to put a tank of gas through it, take it up on some canyon roads, and try my best to keep it under 5,000 RPM. And I'm here to tell you that it is. So let's dive into this. Let me tell you why I selected the Mach 1 over a standard GT or GT350, and what my thoughts are after having driven it for 1 to 2 days. Fast, before we dive into the specifics of this car, why should you listen to what I have to say? Well, this is not my first Mustang. In fact, it is not my second, my third, or even my fourth. This is my 5th Mustang. So which cars have I had? Well, I've had a 95.50, I've had a 97 4-valve Cobra, I've had a 2004 2-valve supercharged, and I've had a 2013 5.0 black on black track pack car with the Recaro seats. Is this the best one? I think it is. Let's dive into why I chose this and my first visual impressions, and then later on in the video, we'll get into driving it and I'll tell you how it drives. So I had to purchase this car pretty much sight unseen. Now, I had a chance to look at a Fighter Gray car, but that was it. I'd never seen this Velocity Blue with the Mach 1 package, and I must say it is a fantastic color. People may complain that they don't have the shaker hood, but that's something you could add if you wanted to. I personally like the stripe. I'm not upset that it doesn't have the shaker hood, but there are definitely some unique accents with this car. So you've got the cutouts for future fog lights, and I actually think I want to make a video where I figure out how to install fog lights in here, because these are actually fake. There's no light in there. You've got a little bit different darkened pony emblem, and then that carries over to your side view mirrors as well. So I think that's pretty cool. You get the unique wheels on this vehicle. Now, these are the upgraded wheels. The standard wheels in the Mach 1 I'm not a huge fan of. I do like the handling package wheels, but you need to get the handling package in order to get those. So these are an extra $495. Not too bad in my opinion. We come here down in the back, man, I love the exhaust on this. It's got the quad tips with the active exhaust where you can change the tone on the fly. You can set it up so that it's quiet when it starts first thing in the morning. Diving into the interior on this car, now I've got this directly to compare to my wife's Z01, which has a fantastic interior, but if I remember coming from my 2013 5.0, this is a huge step in the right direction. So let's sit down inside. One thing I'll say right off the bat, that back in 2013, in order to get a seat that supported you well, you kind of had to get the Recaro seats, but not anymore. These seats have a ton of good bolstering in them. I don't really think that giving up the heated and cooled option to get the Recaros is a great choice, but to each their own. The other thing you'll notice hopping in here as a tall person is this is kind of my head level, and I kind of wish these seats sat down a little bit. They are comfy, but if in the future they offer some lowering rails, I will probably option those. But otherwise, very nice place to be. Kind of leather wrapped everywhere. You've got the Mach 1 badging here on the inside, which is kind of cool. The other thing they give you is they give you 2 gauges. So you've got an oil pressure and you've got a vacuum. If this thing ever sees boost in the future, you can probably take this out and swap it with the GT500 gauge, which would give you vacuum and boost, which is kind of cool. Just makes it look stock, something kind of neat. I'll be honest. I love having oil pressure. Oil temp probably would have been preferred there over vacuum, but hey, what are you going to do? The big talking point though, and this is a huge one, is this shifter. Because other than it being a fancy white shift ball, this is not the MT82 that is in all other 5.0 Mustangs since 2011. This is the same transmission out of the GT350. So why is that important? Well, unless you've lived under a rock for the past 10 years, the MT82 is a flaming pile of garbage. No, I should actually be honest. I've had bad luck with the MT82, but some people do not. It really depends on your specific car. Some people get lucky, some people don't. When I had my 2013, I had to replace it twice under warranty, which Ford did replace, but both times, 3rd and 4th gear synchros started to go. And I drove the car hard, but I didn't have it on slicks. But I had terrible luck with the MT82. And for me, that was a deal breaker. I love my 5.0, but I was never going to buy another GT unless I could get a Tremec transmission. And the throws on this thing are short. It's got a good feel to it. It doesn't feel like the MT82 did, where sometimes you felt like you were searching for gears. This is also a close ratio transmission, whereas the MT82, you're going to be shifting less. This thing, you're shifting all the time. And I love it because this is a sports car. It makes it feel like you're driving a sports car with the fact that it's a close ratio. So I love this. I also love the clutch. No issues there. This is a very easy car to drive. In fact, it's a lot easier of a car to hop in and drive than, say, my wife's ZL1 with the Tremec transmission and clutch that's in that. Let's go ahead and fire this thing up. We're gonna have the AC on. Hopefully you can hear me okay. As far as a Grand Tourer is concerned, I think this is an excellent car that you could drive every single day. I mean, the leather is nice, the screen is nice to look at, AC works, you've got heated and cooled seats. You know, it's a really trick vehicle, all these controls and everything on the dash. Just a really nice, comfortable place to be. I probably wouldn't want to go in the back seat, but that's okay. I don't plan on carting a lot of people around in this vehicle anyway. So let's get it on the road. We'll show you some driving clips and I'll tell you kind of how I feel about how this thing drives. So driving impressions, it's great. I mean, honestly speaking, coming from my wife's ZL1, which is the newest car that I can compare this to, that thing is a ton of fun. But this one just feels like a great Grand Tourer. There's more space for your legs. Everything is kind of right at your fingertips, and just the crispness, the throttle response, super crisp. Coming from my 2013 5.0 to now it's a Gen 3 Coyote now. So it's 12-to-1 compression, better flowing heads, different cam. This has the throttle body intake and cold air intake set up from the GT350, and it's just a snappy, fun motor. I mean, I've tried to keep it below 5,000 RPM just kind of through the break-in, but I can tell right away that this thing is going to be a ton of fun to drive. I've already touched on it, but the close ratio transmission is great. The brakes are great. I think in terms of something that you could get in and drive every day, and you're not worried about it being too harsh, too bumpy, you know, just too radical, too low to the ground. This thing really hasn't scraped on anything yet. It's just a great compromise. It's like a fully loaded GT, but with the uniqueness and that heritage of the Mach 1. So I really challenge anybody who's on the fence between the two to look into one of these things, because it's a ton of fun to drive. I mean, these are great cars. Just kind of wrap this whole video up. The last thing I will say is that if you're trying to decide between a GT, a Mach 1, and a GT350, I'm just going to leave you with this. You can option a GT to the gills, and you can get it to a price point where it's basically a Mach 1. If you do that, you'll get a great car. But when it comes time to sell it, to the average person who doesn't know, if it's a couple of years down the line, you know, just a loaded GT, and you spend all this money on this thing, and to somebody else, maybe they don't need all those options, or again, it's just a GT, right? When you get the Mach 1, it comes with all that stuff to begin with, and it's a Mach 1. In the last 6 months, I've only seen one of these on the road, and since getting mine, I mean, obviously it's just been this weekend, but I haven't seen any other ones, just one in 6 months. So you have that uniqueness factor. You don't need to argue with people about what options it does or doesn't. It's a Mach 1. That's one big thing. The other thing is I've driven a GT350. I've driven them on the track. They are fantastic cars. The Voodoo's a very fun motor, but it's a lot harsher to live with as a daily. So I wanted something that had, you know, the 5.0. I really like the 5.0. There's a lot of room to grow there, but I wanted something that like handled like the 5.0, if not better, but had kind of some of the sportiness of the GT350. And I think this is just smack dab right in the middle. I'm excited to get this thing out on the track. I want to try and talk some friends who have a GT350 into coming and doing some roll racing just to see how the 5.0 compares to the 5.2. In future videos, we're going to go ahead and compare my wife's ZL1, which you've seen in other videos, versus my Mach 1. We'll do some racing, we'll do some side-by-side comparisons. You can pick them up for a very similar price, honestly, a used ZL1 versus a new Mach 1. So stay tuned for that. I really hope you guys like this video. There will be tons more content on the Mach 1, so please do not forget to like, subscribe, check out my other videos. I've got like 50 some videos on my channel, but plenty more to come on the Mach 1. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.